It began in the year 2257 with the founding of the last of the Babylon stations. It's monkey business, and for the next half hour, we're going to be talking about a port of call for refugees, smugglers, businessmen, diplomats, and travelers from hundreds of worlds. Could be a dangerous place, but we accepted that risk because Babylon 5 was our last best hope for good TV. On board with me, Billy DeTore, Tanya Metris, Big Wayne, Tony.
Babylon 5 is alive.
Kelsey, Dee, and Sybil.
Hi.
Hi, guys. It's Chris from WFC3, and here we are yet again, Monkey Business. And as you couldn't tell, we're going to be talking about one of the most interesting science fiction shows.
It's in my top 5 of science fiction shows.
Absolutely, and that's why I want to make sure you were here for this one. Babylon 5, the brainchild of J. Michael Straczynski.
Who also wrote Thor, the first Thor movie.
Which I was an underrated movie. I thought it was fantastic.
And he was one of the guys trying to pull the hammer
Yeah,
out of
he got his little cameo in.
Yeah.
Got his little cameo in. All right, Wayne, tell me about Babylon 5.
Well, it started out in 1994. It was a pilot that J. Michael Straczynski thought that he wanted to do a science fiction show. So he went around to all the networks. He had this idea for a 5-year novel for television. And he went to all the networks saying, hey, I got this idea, and got turned down by them all. And then, lo and behold, Warner Brothers was going to do its primetime entertainment network. And they said, okay, let's try Babylon 5. Let's try the pilot. And the pilot aired March 1993, or was it 94? February? Yeah, February. And it was right at the end of a con. And it was like Sunday night at like 3 o'clock, 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning here in Rochester. And I had my VCR set to tape it.
What's a VCR?
Yeah, seriously, there's a lot of people listening going, huh, what?
Hey,
Tony, do you know what a VCR is?
Yes, I do. They
you
just
sure?
stopped making them this year.
No, they stopped making tapes this year.
Yeah.
I only have a few blank tapes left.
I have the original Star Wars on VHS tape with where Han shot first.
Yes.
Yay, because Han shot first. Anyway.
So,
back to Babylon 5.
So he took it around. He also took it to Paramount and tried to sell it to Paramount. Paramount said, no, we don't think a show where it's set on a space station. No, we don't think that'll do it.
Yeah,
for
Paramount
us.
then went on to make Deep Space Nine because a space station show would never work.
And then one of the things that was that if you wanted Voyager and you ran Babylon 5, they didn't want you running both.
So little competition
Paramount was saying if you want Voyager, you can't run Babylon 5.
So you'd made a reference earlier on, and it's something I've heard before because I've seen J. Michael Straczynski interviews and whatnot about it. But the whole approach, it wasn't just going to be an episodic television show. It was functionally going to be a novel.
Yes.
Set for television.
Yes.
So, and I think that
just like Game of Thrones is.
Yeah. And Game of Thrones was a novel that was written as a novel and then adapted to TV. Right. But this was specifically written for television, and the structure of the show, the way it was going to develop, the way the characters are going, and the story was going to go, was all towards there was a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, the first season is called Signs and Portents, and the second season, I can't remember what the second season's called. I had this all written down and I left it home.
Oh, good job. Wait a minute, no, he's got it. He's got it.
Coming of Shadows.
Amateur
Coming of
TV.
Shadows. Then it became
Point of No Return.
And then Wheel of Fire was the 5th season.
For
No
reference,
Surrender,
Wayne
No
just pulled out the
Retreat.
DVDs.
Yeah, he pulled the DVDs out of his bag.
Season 4 is No Surrender, No Retreat.
And I've got the
That's
I've got the
outstanding.
They
movies
just keep
too.
coming.
And they're beautiful.
They just keep
that's
coming.
beautiful packaging.
And the movies.
And the movies.
Oh my goodness.
That is impressive.
And I think what was the
Are we
charm?
going to have a marathon today?
And Bruce Boxleitner's duct taped in his bag.
Yeah.
I wish. It'd be cool to have Boxleitner, or better yet, Claudia
Christian. Yeah.
Billy Mooney, what are you doing here?
Now
Then you need Jonathan Harris.
we've got a different. So he's got a different approach. He's writing basically. He's writing a book for television.
He wrote, out of the 110 episodes, he wrote 92.
Okay, I was under the impression he wrote all of them, but he wrote 92 of the 110.
Let's see. He wrote some. David Gerald wrote some. DC Fontana from Star Trek wrote some.
Right. I remember hearing about her
she
involvement.
wrote at least 2 or 3.
Okay.
Peter David wrote 2 or 3. David Gerald wrote one. Harlan
Peter
Ellis,
David, not Larry David.
No, Peter David.
Okay.
The comic book guy.
Yeah.
And And that's where he and Billy Mumy started doing, what was that show? Space Cases.
Right.
And Harlan Ellison wrote one or two. Also.
Well, how
He was
can you go
also
wrong
the
with Harlan Ellison
conceptual
involved?
guy for the show, too.
Well, and so, you have this amazing, and then it's a marathon thing because, 92 of 110 episodes, that's unheard of in modern television right now.
He wrote them, and then he directed them and produced the show.
Uh-huh.
So that
He lived and breathed Babylon 5.
yeah, so that way you have, your vision is on screen.
Exactly.
Not a lot of people get that nowadays.
What is it about the story that makes the whole... I mean, because for me, I remember watching the first episode of Bab 5, and it was very raw computer-generated graphics, and that was the consistency throughout. And so, seeing the sci-fi and special effects and being a veteran of Doctor Who fandom myself...
That was way better than Doctor Who.
Way better, but you still there's still a degree of cheesiness compared to what was going on with Star Trek and Star Wars. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. And so you look past that. You look past all of the little nuances and whatnot. What's the core thing that we take away from Babylon 5? What makes it this story that is going to be timeless?
It's all about people.
Mm-hmm.
And people can change for the better. People can change for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot. And people, they switch places. Because you start out with Londo. You're feeling sorry for Londo for everything that's happened to the Centauri.
And he was the Centauri ambassador.
He was the Centauri
ambassador. With the big fan hair.
With the big fan hair. He even said, we're here to beg for you guys, you humans, to accept us so that we can live. And then the Narn were really mean.
They were like the Klingon almost. They were like the Klingon element.
They were, and they were kind of mean. And then all of a sudden, it switches.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Narn you feel sorry for the Narn, and you kind of hate the Centauri.
And then along the way, you've got all these other different other races, the Minbari, who were like the Vulcans.
Yes.
And they're kind of like that
well,
holding
I don't know
thing.
if the Vorlons are the Vorlons were just the Vorlons.
Well, yeah, the Vorlons, the Shadow. You have
the shadows.
Lines in the sand get drawn
basically it's always like everything. It's good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
And
here it says like order versus chaos, war and peace, authoritarianism.
Well, I remember a couple of episodes where the Shadows were supposed to be the bad guys, but they were also kind of like this whole thing for rapid change, almost like not anarchy but for like a dramatic shift.
The Vorlons would always ask you a question that's basically ask you, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And the Shadows would ask you, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And that was their two versions of how the universe should work.
Right.
And it was pretty good. I liked it.
And it was relatable to modern society.
Yes.
It was a social commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of those...
If you look the first season, everybody has a secret they're hiding.
Every single person.
Every single person has something they're hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out, and then it switches. And they don't do that a lot in normal science fiction.
It almost relates back to the Joss Whedon quote when we were talking about Firefly the other day. It's the story of 9 people looking at the same thing and coming up with 9 different...
Right.
9 different versions, 9 different stories to it. So now with all of these factors together, Wayne, I want you to tell me, because we've spent talking about Doctor Who, which I can talk about for days, not just hours. I can talk for days about Doctor Who, and you've made it very clear that Babylon 5 is high up on your list of favorites.
Right.
Tell me why.
Because Star Trek, I can't see people in a Star Trek universe, but I can see normal people nowadays in a Babylon 5 universe.
Is Star Trek too idealistic, do you think? Is that what it is?
I don't understand how people being people with the tens of thousands of years of being people get to, in 200 years, become the Federation.
Okay.
And
I'll just get along. One happy Federation.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works. But in Babylon 5, it's like, we just got better tech. We're just the same old people.
How far? So it's not a commentary, and it's not just a commentary on how far we've come because of technology, but it's a commentary of how far we haven't come as a society.
Right.
Okay. There's some social-political thing going on there. Billy, what do you think?
Well, I'm curious, Wayne. It's one of your favorite shows. Is the acting tremendous? Like that's to me, that's a strong point of Firefly. Is you care about the characters.
Oh, you definitely
as someone
care
that
about the characters.
I haven't seen Babylon 5. Would I care about
Yes.
what I'm looking at.
Because, like I said, the characters change. They start off.
They evolve.
They evolve a lot better than on most regular TV shows.
Because I know J. Michael Straczynski from his work on Superman. I
Right.
know you're a big Superman fan.
Right.
But that's almost the only thing I know about him. That and he created Babylon 5, but I haven't watched it yet.
Well, he
So I'm assuming the writing is
the
strong.
writing is excellent.
Okay.
They go in. There'll be stuff. It's a 5-year story arc, and there's stuff first season makes no sense till third season.
You know that, and that's something I was going to bring up during the course of the conversation. One of my favorite things about Bab 5. Now, I'm not as intense a fan as Wayne is. I was a casual fan. I know there's lots of episodes I never saw, but I got enough to know the general gist of the story. But one of the things that I really loved the most were little drop-ins in the first season, and it would be regular second, third, fourth. You'd have these little drop-ins, which at the time you ignore almost. You would just have these moments where like, okay, that happened, and you'd file it away, or you would completely blow it off, and then it would come full circle 3-4 seasons later.
By the time you get to the payoff,
Yeah.
do you forget about the setup?
No,
In some cases you do, and that's good because they've actually put flashbacks in with
Yes.
the payoff moments. Like there's this great interaction,
with Veer and Mr. Morden.
But yeah, you know where I'm going with
Yes.
that. I don't want to spoiler it because it's just
it's
too
a
funny.
20-year-old show.
It's a 20-year-old show. Well, there's some people who like, Tony
Hi.
here has not seen it. Kelsey has not seen it.
I haven't seen all of it. But
So these are things you might want to watch. So
Yeah,
I always
heard of
try to be
it?
very
What?
I hadn't
cautious about.
before today.
Yeah, I want to be very cautious
can't
about
fire
spoilers. We can't. It's Dan's. She's Dan's.
that's Jan's job.
All right, but anyway, long and the short of it is there are B-list characters in the show even get some really nice, rich plot lines to play with, some really rich, nice moments. So nobody's really a throwaway character in Bab 5 I've seen. No. Okay, and there's this great moment which in the one of the early seasons that this attaché to one of the main characters is having a little tete-a-tete with this guy who's eventually going to become the representative of the bad guys. All right, and
Depending on
your point of
time,
view.
yeah.
Depending on your point of view. And Veer says to this guy, he goes, I have this little wish, and it's I want something bad to happen to you, and I want to be there so that I can enjoy it. That kind of a gist of it. And it's just this little throwaway moment, and it lets you know that Veer is somebody who really doesn't want to take any crap from people. He's this bumbling little, affable little fool, but he has that edge in the background, and he's not afraid to use it. And then you fast forward a couple of seasons, and suddenly this whole thing starts unfolding, and you see this payoff, and they do a little flashback to the original threat, and it's just like you're sitting there. My jaws drop. I'm like, oh my God, they did that. That came full circle. These little references that come just full circle, and I think without J. Michael Straczynski being involved as deeply and as extensively as he was, you miss things like that because I don't think other writers would ever remember that.
No. Like I said, he had it all mapped out how he wanted to go, and he even had places where I could lose people and I don't care.
Yeah,
It's like-
and he did.
Yeah, he lost Commander Sinclair.
Sinclair was supposed
after
to be there
first
for all
season.
5, but it didn't work out because the actor had his issues. God, God bless him. God rest his soul. But you move on to a different, and the show actually thrived from that change.
Because then you brought in Star Killer.
Oh yeah, yeah. You bring in Bruce Boxleiter's character, Commander Shepard.
Sheridan.
Where'd I go with?
Shepard, and
Shepard.
this is my favorite.
You know
spot
what? I
the
was on
Citadel.
Stargate Atlantis with Shepard. I'm getting all my space heroes confused sometimes.
And
That's why I just like the Doctor. Anyway,
Because you can reference
I
the
can
doctor.
reference the Doctor, and people know where I am with that.
and it's
Doctor Who? No, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, him too.
or Dr. Detroit.
Oh God,
No one says Dr. Detroit.
Wayne just did.
Yeah.
Nobody
So-
but Wayne.
So yeah, I mean, I think that if without J. Michael Straczynski, in essence, being as involved, you don't get that depth.
No.
No, it just
And-
becomes another episodic sci-fi TV show.
And it wasn't made, like I said, it wasn't made to be episodic. Even though you have to see each season. Mm-hmm. There are some episodes you can miss, but there's always something that moves the arc along in every
Right.
episode.
Yeah,
And it all depends on if you really need to see it. Because, like, Signs and Portents, like I said, everybody had things that they were hiding and that started to come out in that season. Because you got Garibaldi, who's an alcoholic, used to be an alcoholic. You got Ivanova and